Well, hello! Peege here. We've all heard about addictive personalities, the kind of people that go to the casino, they also smoke, they also drink, and whatever other things they're addicted to. And I think we all have an addictive personality in one way or another because we actually get addicted to nerve pathways more than anything. Sure, there's physical addictions to things like drugs and alcohol and other substances, external things, but there's also addictions to our own internal neural networks and chemical networks and hormones and neurotransmitters. But I submit that most addictions are really just an addiction to the familiar. When we travel a nerve pathway over and over enough times, that pathway becomes familiar. And the brain likes familiar. And once a pathway is established, the brain wants to travel that again. It's kind of like beating a path through the thick woods. The first time is really hard. The second time, there's still some stuff and hacking and stomping to do. The third time, it's getting easier. The fourth time, it's easier yet. Fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and then it becomes something that's automatic. You don't really even need to try to get through the woods on that path because it's so well established. Same with nerve pathways in the brain. Since the body is designed for efficiency, so is the brain. And so the brain wants to be as efficient as possible, to use as little energy as possible, to conserve that energy. That's how we're designed. That's why we're resistant to high intensity exercise and other things that are hard, because by nature, our body wants to avoid those things to conserve energy. Same with the brain. The brain uses tons of energy. In fact, it's about 30% of your metabolism, believe it or not. So, because this brain is such a high energy cost unit in the body is trying to find ways to be really efficient in the brain. And it's much more efficient for the brain to use already established neural networks, those paths that have already been beaten down. So when I say we're addicted to the familiar, it's just the brain trying to be efficient, trying to use the neural networks and paths that have already been established so it doesn't have to create new ones. So here's the other side of this. It's really good for the brain to create new paths and new neural networks and learn new stuff outside your field of expertise. It feels frustrating to do it, but just remind yourself every time you get to that point, it's a good thing. It's really good for the brain, and you're burning more calories. So if you want to become addicted to exercise or addicted to Brussels sprouts because you hate them right now, then do what you don't want to do. Eat those Brussels sprouts or do that exercise when you don't want to until it becomes part of your lifestyle, an ingrained habit, and then it's going to be easier to go down that path again, and eventually you can even become addicted to exercise or Brussels sprouts or other healthy life choices. Think about alcohol, for instance. I don't know many people who liked the taste of alcohol on their first try, but because of social reasons or whatever other reason they came up with to keep drinking alcohol, they developed an affiliation for it, a familiarity with it, because those nerve networks were being trained and created until the point where it became familiar enough that there was an addiction formed. Now, with alcohol or any other drug that alters your state, there's another side of the addiction there, but they're all formed the same way. Healthy food addictions are formed the same way. Exercise addictions are formed the same way. And by the way, with exercise, there are neurotransmitter and chemical addictions that come along with that, just like drugs and alcohol. So that addiction can be real strong. But wouldn't you rather be addicted to something good for you, healthy, that makes you younger and actually lives longer? So just remember, addiction has more to do with familiarity than anything else. So just make those things that you want to do more of more familiar by doing more of them. It might be hard in the beginning, but remember, when it feels hard, that's when you know your brain is getting the most out of it. You're burning more calories just thinking about it and pushing through, and then eventually you'll get to the point where it is familiar, you're addicted to it, and then it's easy. It's not hard anymore. Well, how do I push through these hard parts? I'm glad you asked. because I've got a brain type test that can help you with that. If you go to beegeandpeege.com or bnp.life, you'll see the button right on the front page to give you the option to take that test. And that test will tell you which brain type you are, and then it'll give you recommendations to make health and fitness easier based on how your brain is wired. So go try that out and see if you think that might be a help. Now here's the real interesting thing. People can become addicted to a certain state, and then they can get locked into this. So you ever been to a class reunion and talked to somebody and you're surprised because they've kind of turned negative? Well, her personality changed over the years because her state changed over the years. And the reason for that was being in that state more often. So it became familiar. But this is the cool thing about our brains, is they are changeable. And we can change our habits, we can change our addictions, we can get addicted to good stuff, to healthy stuff. We can even change our personalities in a good way, if we choose, or a bad way, sometimes unconsciously. But for those of us that know how and know this is possible, it is a good thing, because we now can control our destiny through these brain training and brain changing techniques.